Welcome into a live Tuesday edition of Betting Weekly Live. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside Chris Macero. Busy card in college basketball. We're going to break down a slew of games, also touch on a few other sports. We survived the weather, Chris. We've been ravaged here in Vegas with a bunch of winds starting in the wee hours of the night. How did you and your internet hold up last night?
Yeah, we didn't lose power. The atmospheric river didn't get the best of us. So that Duke second half got the best of me, but we survived everything else. Power didn't go out, no tree limbs down, no broken windows. So hopefully we can bounce back a little bit better today.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was crazy. You and I were texting during the game. I had to flip the channel. I couldn't take it anymore. Just crazy out of the gates with Duke. And I guess, look, we saw this a bunch during college football season where we'd see steam on a side for a total that just didn't make any sense. And sometimes, about, let's call it half the time, the steam was crazy wrong. And it was just bizarre, like a bizarre steam, not like obviously conventional steam makes sense. Any more thoughts to kind of what we saw yesterday with that steam that obviously ended up proving right? Like any sort of, lessons we can take away and move forward and apply, or is it just kind of an isolated situation? Don't want to overreact too much.
Well, I texted you during the game a little bit later, I think in the second half, and I go, you know what? If you think about it a little bit more, as I mentioned, it was Syracuse's third game in 5 days, off a double overtime game last week with travel coming down to Duke. And what I texted you is I go, I've never seen Duke play this fast all year. And it was probably a smart move by Shire. Why not run and gun with these guys off a team that is going to be tired, off all those games, off the double overtime with the travel? And it was probably a smart move in hindsight, just to handicap it that way. They're just going to run and gun. They're better than them. They're going to make shots. They're going to press the ball. They had Syracuse had so many turnovers. It was you texted me. It looked like a dunk line, in warmups. It was just one after another. But what can you do? Duke shot 80% in the second half. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And Syracuse, I actually had team total under. That got away from me late too, as there were some loose ball fouls, and Syracuse hit a couple of threes late. It went to 64. I was shocked that Syracuse was able to get 40 points in the second half, but it was because Duke was playing fast. That's not the style Duke usually plays. And I give credit to Shire for actually acknowledging the fact that this Syracuse team is going to be tired off that travel, off those games, and he ran it. And that was probably a smart move.
We don't want to pull on the thread too much. I mean, first half went under by 4.5 points. The Syracuse had 24, I believe, in the first half. So clearly the handicap was there. It just, the shot making was out of control. And by Syracuse too, you mentioned the 40-point. I mean, the step back threes by Melo's son. I mean, just everything. And I thought Duke's help defense was pretty surprisingly sluggish. I mean, they helped off a shooter with like 2 on the shot clock to a baseline big who definitely did not want to shoot it. And there was no reason to help. And so it's just really kind of bizarre. And it was a perfect storm and just kind of got away. So look, the first half went under. Sometimes I know we break up the totals bet first half in game. So it was just interesting because, obviously there's only a couple games worth discussing yesterday. And then we had steam and it was Duke and it was such an atypical performance. So there were a lot of things to just kind of extract. And that's why I wanted to say, did we learn anything? And I'm not so sure we did. Yeah, Shire changed the game plan, but first half was a rock fight. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can still see Syracuse isn't a great, they're not a great three-point shooting team. They're not a great offensive team. And I thought that their offensive performances in the 2 previous games were more based on the fact that the teams they were playing weren't very good. Duke might have been a little bit lackadaisical on defense, which you could understand being up that many points. They were up 25, 28, 32. They weren't going to lose the game, and they were just playing a little bit more of a freestyle. I expect this weekend there'll be a little bit tighter defense against Michigan on Saturday.
All right, and the other game 2 of the doubleheader on ESPN, remarkable cover by Iowa State. Closed the game on a 17-4 run to cover. They were down 10, and just remarkable sequence, especially at the end. You missed the front end of a 1-on-1 up 2, but the little guy gets the offensive rebound, fouled. You get the double bonus because that was the 10th foul, so a little bit less pressure, the make and then the miss. and they chewed a couple seconds of clock on that free throw miss. So really horrendous beat if you had Houston plus 2.5. And I thought the shot making was crazy by Iowa State. So, you give some away, you get some. If you were, if you tailed the show or whatever, we got there with the Cyclones money line and minus the 2.5.
Yeah, crazy that they covered due to the fact that you had a guy go to the line who was shooting two. He was 2 for 6 from the free throw line. He missed. Then they had another guy miss both. They missed 3 of their last 4 free throws. Just a crazy way to cover the spread. Like I said, I had under in the first half. That was no good. Of course, it was under in the second half. I was able to get some under live. I did take Iowa State live, and we did have the money line. So I went from having a really, really rough night to pretty much getting it all back. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. You got to be on top of these things, live betting them, looking at the way the game flow. You just kind of knew Iowa State was going to make a run. That game was just a big run, Iowa State. Houston comes back, takes a lead. Iowa State takes a lead at half. Houston goes on the big run. Kind of crazy that Houston gave that game away, especially that Iowa State missed so many free throws. So like I tweeted out last night, I said, the Hilton magic is real because Iowa State had absolutely no business winning that game.
Yeah, I was monitoring the game live. I didn't see a live money line, but it had to be up there. So it's crazy. Like Duke was under at halftime, then flew over. This game flew over first half and literally almost got there with the under 134.5, 135. Crazy. In terms of the futures market, you have Houston at 8-1, Iowa State 12-1. I'm not rushing to bet the Cyclones. I kind of came away, I don't want to say more impressed because I do think Houston's a legit national championship contender because I think their offense is pretty good. By the way, Fleming's, he's like 4th in some mock drafts. I didn't realize he was that high. I didn't think he'd be ahead of the guy at Louisville's escaping, Mikael Brown, and I'm shocked. So I thought he'd be like 8th or 9th. I knew he was a lottery pick, but I didn't realize some people had him as high as 4th. But I like Houston's offense. I think Sampson's an excellent coach, obviously Hilton Magic, but I'm in no rush to bet the Cyclones. I do not see them making the deepest run here. I don't think they're Final Four caliber. Maybe the bracket breaks for them, but I don't see value at all at 12-1.
Well, they're a live by the 3, die by the 3 team. And when their threes aren't going in, they're in serious trouble because even if they get to the paint, they don't make any free throws. They're shooting, they total for the year tick below 67%. It's one of the bottom of the barrel free throw shooting teams in the country. And we all know there is going to be some pressure free throws in the NCAA tournament, especially in the Final Four if they were fortunate enough to get that far. If you're in a final game or a Final Four game, you better hope you're making 42% of your threes, because if you're not, I don't see this team being able to outlast some of these high quality opponents because they're not going to be able to play at Ames, Iowa in the NCAA tournament. That's a huge advantage for them. Their 3 losses of ours, obviously on the road. We mentioned it last night. They're 14-0 at home, moved to 15-0 at home. I do like their coach. Otzelberger is great. They're very good defensively. They got a lot of good guys that do the dirty work on this team, but the free throw thing, that's the big hang up for me. I'd hate to have to go to the line needing 2, and this team just doesn't show the propensity to make both free throws as we saw last night.
Good breakdown. I think that hit the nail on the head. Obviously, you got to see how the bracket unfolds, but no need to grab 12-1 right now with the clones. Okay, let's turn the page because I like to do a little autopsy, sort of just take inventory of what we saw last night, what we could have learned. Maybe the next game, like, hey, this shooter's going to break out of some, whatever. It's just good to kind of revisit things and see if there's any ways to monetize moving forward. But it was good to flush that out. Much more expansive card in college basketball. And I think you raised a good point with the Duke sort of game strategy with the pace, because I think there's some teams today that would benefit maybe slowing it down. Not necessarily in this high-profile matchup in the Big Ten. So let's get to that. With Michigan and Purdue, Boilermakers had that run of 3 straight losses, turned things around, but now they got a little bit of a tough challenge. They host the number 1 ranked team in the country. Wolverines have moved from 1.5 to 2.5 point road favorites at Mackey. Chris, first things first. I know Michigan's been ranked number 1, so it's not like Duke's ranked 1 for the first time this year, but any sort of like Wolverines, now that they have the number 1 ranking, any more extra pressure, anything that affects your handicap here? Because sometimes we've talked about teams that get ranked for the first time this year, like Miami of Ohio, getting ranked for the first time a couple weeks ago. This is number one for the first time, this week or at least this month, whatever. Does that factor in at all?
That doesn't factor in at all to me. The only pressure I'm worried about is the backcourt pressure because this Michigan team cannot be beat if they don't turn the ball over. They're just dominant in the front court, three-point shooting. They got big-time players all over the court. They play great defense, great offense, top 5 coach in the country. The turnovers are the problem. The games that they've lost and the games that they've struggled with, they've had to come back because of the turnovers in the backcourt. So if they can keep that, limited at the best, we'll see. Obviously you got a good backcourt in Purdue, Braden Smith, one of the best players in the country. I just think Michigan's too much for this team. Purdue has been all of a sudden Purdue's in big favor. They've rolled off a couple wins of late. I just think Michigan's just got too much firepower. The team, when they get rolling, they're really, really tough to stop. I don't have a big bet on this game. I played Michigan in a parlay last night, part of my Iowa State money line plays. I played a few parlays with Iowa State money line. I used Michigan as one of the legs. I have it at 1.5. I see we're up to 2.5. I don't know if that 1 point's going to come in. I probably should have played the money line, but it wasn't available last night to actually play it, and I didn't buy it down. So I'm stuck with 1.5 right now. I just think they're too much for them. Maybe they're looking ahead to Duke, but you can't really look ahead when you got one of your arch rivals playing at Mackey Arena. So I just think this should be a great game. Contrast the styles. Purdue's going to want to slow it down, very slow, tempo. One of the slowest teams in the country. Michigan likes to put up huge numbers. We've seen them get to triple digits multiple times this year. I think Michigan ends up getting it done. I think they got too much firepower for Purdue. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, although Purdue has got blown out at home a couple times this year, at least once. I just think Michigan has too much for them.
All right, good stuff. We do see some comments in the comment section, which I love. Iowa State cut Sampson's hair in the last 4 minutes, just talking about last night's game. So you mentioned a couple things. The look-ahead spot, I agree. If they were laying like 30 at Northwestern or something, then fine. Then maybe it's a look-ahead spot because they're at Cameron Indoor on Saturday. But this is a much different situation. I think the Boilermakers will have their full attention. I also want to say, remember, this Michigan team's had some bugaboos. They almost lost at Penn State. Northwestern, I think they were trailing recently at halftime, but they were definitely not covering, and then won by double digits. 2-6 ATS on the road. Now, that's different than when you're laying 2.5 versus like 12 at Northwestern or 15.5 and things like that. Any sort of like this has not been the same team on the road. They've definitely shot themselves in the foot with the turnovers you alluded to. You have a veteran point guard in Braden Smith, but he has been a little turnover prone. He hasn't been the vintage Braden Smith, let's call it. Any sort of road woes factor into your assessment in this game, even though it's such a different vibe with the short road fave?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look back to a couple of weeks ago when they played Nebraska without Nebraska's 2 best players. And that game was at home and they struggled. So,
right.
It's just Michigan's one of those teams where they have these spots in the game. Maybe they last 6 to 8 minutes, but for some reason the offense isn't clicking. But they're so good when the offense is clicking that it's an explode. What is that word that they used to say? Spurtability. They just have that spurtability where all of a sudden, the team's up, 47 or 41. Next time you look, it's 60 to 49. Kind of like what happened in the UCLA game this past Saturday. UCLA, they were down 6-8 first half. They cut it to 2 at the end of the half, 40 to 38. Next thing you know, Michigan's up 67 to like 52. Just boom, right out of the gates. They didn't miss much in the second half. So they have a great offense. When it's clicking on all cylinders, they're probably the best team in the country. The one thing that does concern me is the turnovers. We've seen that, in their losses, they've turned the ball over a lot. That's just my one concern. I feel like they're just too talented, too fast. Purdue hasn't been playing great defenses against elite offenses, hasn't been playing great defense against elite offense. I just think Michigan gets it done tonight. I wouldn't want to lay 2.5. I feel like 1.5, 2 is the max. Because I can see it. Definitely see it landing on 2 points. But I think Michigan gets it done.
So it's coin flip game, essentially what you're saying. So that's interesting. we're going to get into Michigan UCLA game momentarily. So interesting. I'm with you. I lean to the road favorite. There was some steam on the over. I agree with it. I think Michigan's going to push the pace, but you mentioned Purdue might want to slow it down. Let's talk about those aforementioned Bruins as we keep it in the Big Ten. They're at Michigan State. So certainly a difficult road trip for the Bruins, and Mick Cronin chirping about it. He might be the boy who cried wolf, right? The coach who cried wolf. Because, at this point in the season, mid-February, we're tuning him out. But Michigan State, off a good old-fashioned butt whooping, as Tom Izzo put it, they got spanked. And this has been a weird team. Now, it's mid-March. Sorry, it's mid-February, March around the corner. So you always got to be careful fading Izzo. But we saw what he did, push the right buttons for Fears. They got there a couple Fridays ago against Illinois. But this is a Michigan State team I don't want any part of. But the Bruins not exactly deep. So if I were to play UCLA, it'd be first half, especially with this road trip. But you just mentioned what happened at Chrysler Arena in the second half. So for me, it's UCLA first half or nothing, but definitely nothing for now.
I look at this game as two teams, and I mentioned it yesterday when we were going over the rundown of the takeaways. You have two coaches that are usually stalwarts on the defensive end. Izzo at Michigan State, Mick Cronin, all the way back to, Cincinnati. He's at UCLA. He wants elite defense, and these defenses just haven't been up to par at all. Michigan State still has a great rating on defense on KenPom, but UCLA is right around 50 now, and that's nowhere where Mick Cronin wants his team to be. I will say one thing. The last time they kind of gave up a boatload of points to Indiana 4 or 5 games ago, they did come back, albeit against Rutgers, and held them to only 66 points. So maybe there's going to be a defensive effort a little bit higher than it was against Michigan the other day. And on the same regard, Sparty's going to have to play a little bit better on defense. They gave up 15 3-pointers to Wisconsin on Friday night. They got their doors blown off 91-72. So you figure two defensive coaches, both off big-time losses where they both got blown out, one giving up 91, one giving up 86. I think there's going to be a major emphasis on defense. Neither one of these teams are really great on offense either. So you got two defensive-minded coaches, two weak offenses, and you got UCLA and Michigan State who don't push the pace much at all. So UCLA 310 in tempo. Michigan State is up there as well. So I just feel like this is an under game based on the fact that the styles right away are both defensive styles, but coming off blowout losses where the defense was really weak, I think this is a recipe for an under.
I don't love this Michigan State team. Who knows if what they can do when Fears isn't going off. So they're really limited in my eyes. So that would be the only way I play it. I think you're really smart in terms of kind of Cronin knowing what he has, knowing the road trip, knowing what happened in the second half in Ann Arbor. I don't think he wants to get in the track meet at all. I think that's a really sharp angle. So I'm with you on that front. I would not have been seeing the under there until you mentioned it. So I like that as well. Let's keep it in the Big Ten before we shift gears to the ACC. That game was on Peacock. This one's on Big Ten Network. Nebraska at Iowa. Really intriguing matchup. It's down to pick. Nebraska obviously ranked. Iowa's been in a little bit of a rut, just lost at home. It might have been a look-ahead spot here with the Huskers in town. A lot of shooting. I wish you can take an over on attempts, kind of like we do in player props for quarterbacks, right? Pass attempts. I wish we could take an over in 3-point attempts. I lean Huskers here on the road. I feel like Iowa's a little one-dimensional with Sturts, but I think that we're going to get a really, really good performance out of the Hawks at Carver Hawkeye here.
Well, I'll agree with one thing you said. They are definitely one-dimensional with Sturts. He needs some help. He's a one-man show right now. And they only have a couple guys contributing on the team. They have Tavion Banks, only other guy on their roster averaging double digits, but he's been very inconsistent. He's only gone for 20 or more twice. It was against USC and Indiana. They're just not shooting the ball well. Against Purdue, they were only 6 for 22 from 3, and Sturts was 2 of 6. The rest of the team, only 25%, 4 for 16. You got a game before against Maryland, where they were big favorites on the road, only 7 for 28 from 3. Sturts was 4 from 10. The rest of the team was only 3 for 18. So he needs a lot of help. He's got to, he's been pulling his weight, but some of these other guys got to step up. The Avala Fulgaris, he's been non-existent. He's one of their top four players. He's been non-existent, only 5 points the last 2 games. So this is what they say. It's a gotta have it game for Iowa. I mean, they need to win this game to get your doors blown off by Purdue, in-state rival on Sunday. They just got to shoot better. So the one thing I'm looking at is Nebraska. Their last 6 wins haven't been that impressive. Okay, they beat Northwestern twice, Rutgers, Minnesota, Washington, and Oregon without Biddle. Granted, their 3 losses were to Michigan, Illinois, and Purdue. So nothing to sneeze about there. But I'm just not sure. In a must-win situation for Iowa, I played a little Iowa +1, -126. I have them on the money line -119. I just think they got to have this game. It's kind of like a save theirs type of season situation. This is one that's definitely a coin flip, but I'm going to go with the home team off the blowout loss to come back and pick up a nice win, a much-needed win against Nebraska.
All right. I'm a little uneasy with Sturtz. I think against ranked teams, which the Huskers are, he's under 20 points in all 5 games. So obviously defenses, better teams, obviously, are going to key on him, things like that. But this is, this is at home. Nebraska, not exactly the amoeba defense of the old days of UNLV. So he's going to get his looks, just got to hit some shots. And by the way, he's a top 10 projected pick. I didn't realize he was that high, especially in such a loaded draft. But we'll see, we'll see how it all plays out down the road. All right, let's go to the ACC now. Interesting handicap. I was on North Carolina on Saturday. A, they were playing Pitt. And B, teams usually respond with the first game without their star, right? The injured star. They played hard, covered first half with ease. This is a different ask. This line's been getting steamed up. I know some people thought it was going to be 6 over, 5.5, 6. It's up to 7.5. I know Caleb Wilson's really valuable, but this number's gotten out of hand. NC State blew a game against Miami, which I know you were on the Canes on Saturday. I can't lay this kind of lumber. What about you?
Yeah, NC State just one of those teams that I'm not going to be on the rest of the season. I don't like their style of play. I don't like their headiness. Giving that game away to Miami, to my good fortune on Saturday was great. I do want to mention Miami real quick. I like their team. I think they're very well coached. John Lucas, the defensive specialist coach from Duke, is the head coach now. I had him against North Carolina when they won. I had him against NC State when they won. I think they're a dark horse team to make a run in March. You can find them at, I think they're almost 40 or 50 to 1 to make the Final Four. I'm not saying they're going to make the Final Four, but it's worth a flyer. A really strong defensive team, has a really good coach, and they got some decent wins on their schedule, and they don't play Duke, which is interesting. So they're going to be probably top 4 in the ACC, maybe get the bye in the tournament, prove their seat. But I just can't bet NC State. I don't want to get North Carolina and be involved with North Carolina either. Without their star, first game on the road, without Wilson, this is just a stay away game for me. NC State should probably get the win, but they've just been underwhelming. I was texting with Jimmy Ott about Will Wade. I'm like, this guy drives me nuts, and he's like, well, we miss him in LSU because it's been kind of a rough sledding since he's been gone. But I don't really want to ever lay points with NC State.
I'm with you. The number's too high. Maybe first half. I don't know. North Carolina didn't show me a ton. Their defense is not great. And then they're missing Caleb Wilson, who I saw one projection guy just saying that he's kind of like Garnett defensively. And so I don't know. I think this UNC team could get their doors blown off, but it's also a rivalry game. So it's just interesting. I think the number's right. I think it's too high. Maybe first half had my attention. Let's keep it in the ACC with Louisville, however you pronounce it, going to SMU. I lean to the Mustangs here, but Louisville had some injuries. Obviously, we know that for a chunk of the season. They're kind of in a groove, so to speak. And some coaches I know, treat it like marathon versus sprint, right? The season, you want to peak at the end of the season. I wonder if guys like Mikel Brown and this Cardinals team can get it done. No play for me. Any read on this game?
SMU is not very good defensively, so if I don't have a play in this game. I remember going back to NC State. If you want to talk about them just for another second, that game 2 weeks ago when Louisville just could not miss. I mean, they put up over 100 points. SMU just doesn't defend that well. So I could see maybe Louisville filling it up again tonight. But again, Louisville's had some games where they just don't shoot the three very well, and then they're in trouble because they're a live by the three type of teams. I would expect this to be a high scoring game, but I don't have any play on it.
118 points that Louisville scored at home against the Wolfpack, 18 of 30 from downtown. They could not miss. Mikel Brown was, fantastic in that game, 10 of 16 from downtown. To do it against a Power 4 team or whatever was remarkable. So let's keep it moving here. So we've covered the ACC and the Big Ten, the high-profile games. How about the SEC? It's well documented how much I hate this Georgia team. They're one of the dumbest teams I've seen, but this is a must-win spot. You talk about gotta have it. They've played themselves off the bubble. They're catching Kentucky a little fat and happy. If I could bet first to 10 or first to 20, maybe I'd bet the Bulldogs. But I can't imagine unless they just shoot lights out because they don't have any size to rebound. They get out-rebounded every game. I think they're poorly coached. Unless they shoot the lights out, I think the Cats eventually pull away and cover, but the spot has me on a pass here.
Yeah, it's tough to lay points with Kentucky too because they go into big time lulls. And if Georgia can do one thing, it is shoot the three, fairly well. They've had some games where they've just, poured in 40+%, and those are the games they're going to win. That's Mike White. That's their coach's strategy. Just rain as many threes and play fast. I don't have a play on this game. I was high on Kentucky before the season. They had a lot of injuries. They were supposed to be a lot better defensively. They showed a pretty good effort against Florida about a week ago, but I'm just not sure what type of seed this team's going to get. Probably like an 8-9 matchup. Maybe they get on the 7 line. Maybe it clicks. They obviously have a lot of talent in Kentucky, but I'm not going to lay 6.5 with them, and I'm definitely not going to take Georgia. I know they got to have it, but that's a tough spot for them as well. I'm going to steer clear of this one.
Yeah, it's a good reminder when teams are on the bubble. They're on the bubble for a reason, right? They've been unable to deliver when it matters. Now, some teams play harder and execute when they're on the bubble, so it's not something you want to ignore. But just remember, just because a team needs a game doesn't mean they get it. We all know how Week 18 has gone over the years, right? The teams that play loose and free, not that Kentucky's totally loose and free, but just because a team's trying harder or in theory trying harder, they're on the bubble because they haven't been able to execute. We've had some good chat here when we were talking about Iowa State, or at least I was talking about ignoring them in the futures market. I forget who it was. They were asking, are there any other kind of high-profile teams you're looking to ignore or fade in the futures? Kentucky, look, they're a big brand. Any interest in them? Are they going to put it together come tournament time? I believe they went Sweet 16 last year.
Well, if you're going to fade, teams I'm fading that I don't have, I have a pretty sizable portfolio of college basketball futures. I start before the season and then I add as things go, and I look at the ratings and the stuff that I think is going to be a benefactor to me down the road. It's, mostly getting the right value on teams that I like. But a team like Purdue, they're getting a big push now. Purdue's not going to win the national championship. I just don't see it. They'd have to play, they're going to probably win the first two rounds, but then they're going to have to play like 4 perfect games. And I just don't think that can happen. I know Braden Smith is really good, and Trey Coffin-Wren's great, something just not there. It's just the same. It's the same guys. I know they're a year older, but they were number 1 to start the season. They haven't impressed me. They've got blown out a couple times. I'm fading Purdue. I have very small stuff on Duke. I'm still kind of fading them. I think that the ACC being as weak as it is doesn't really show their true colors. We'll see this week. They're going up against Michigan. It's going to be an awesome Saturday. We got the top 4 teams in the country all playing each other. Houston, Arizona, Duke, Michigan. Put me in front of a TV on Saturday. That's going to be great. But I'm not thinking Duke's going to cut down the nets. I don't think they're going to make the Final Four. And I've said it all season. If you couldn't win it with Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel, I don't think you're going to win it this year.
Players' execution in tight games, right? Last night was not an example of that, but North Carolina game was, tournament game last year was. So he's a good coach, but that takes some time to learn. So we'll see how that plays out if they can actually execute in some tight games. Let's keep it moving. Um, Trying to just pick the games. We've had some questions here of Miami of Ohio. This is obviously the lone remaining undefeated team in the country, and this number's come up a little bit. 2.5 now. UMass lost by 2 in Oxford earlier this season. In terms of the regular season, this might be the Red Hawks' most difficult game. I know Carver's tried to fade them a couple times. We got burned in the Kent State game. Akron's pretty good. Yeah, there's your comment. Can't believe Miami of Ohio is minus 160. UMass are not a serious team. I don't know. What's your read here with the Minutemen?
Well, listen, they had a 4-point lead at half at Miami of Ohio a couple weeks ago. They led late in the game. They only lost by 3 points. They're serious enough to beat Miami of Ohio, and they're going now up to Amherst. I think the crowd's going to be a little wild tonight. I think there's a little bit of a ceremony for Marcus Camby or something, or the UMass team of '96. So we'll see. I think there's going to be a pretty festive atmosphere up there. And I will tell you one thing. The last 2 games, Miami of Ohio has shot a ridiculous 48% from three-point land. I see some regression coming. Frank Martin's probably the best coach in this league. I think he can dial something up, a little bit of different scheme or a little bit of different look. I don't think the Red Hawks are going to be shooting 48% from 3 tonight. UMass getting 3 points. I'm on board. 10-3 at home this year. And like I said, they had a lead late. They should have that should have been their first loss. So I think UMass gets it done tonight. I'll take the 3, but I think UMass pulls the upset, gives the Red Hawks their first loss of the season.
All right, and I like Henry typing it in the chat here. You don't want to tell Frank Martin to his face that his team is unserious, so you got to be careful there. Analytics capper Albert chiming in. UMass first half, that could be a good angle. They're going to be certainly up for it. By the way, the only time I've done a play-by-play call was at UMass. A little food for thought, or a little trivia question there. Dayton at UMass was the game. It was a little really fun game. And of course, Chris, I like my late game strategy. There was a lot of that in the game late with fouling and single bonus versus double bonus. It was put up on a tee for me, so I really enjoyed how the game played out in that one. All right, let's keep it moving because there's a lot of games to discuss, different types of games, point spreads, big ones, small ones. You mentioned Miami. Let's go to that game. We'll go back to the ACC. Canes at home, Virginia Tech with a roller coaster of a week last week, wins at Clemson, then lays an egg. They're catching big number in Coral Gables. Overnight was 8.5. It's now 7.5. Canes off the big win. This number feels a little too high. I think we see a solid performance out of the Hokies here.
Yeah, I didn't play the side. I understand there's obviously a letdown, a little bit of a letdown. They got 2 great wins, obviously over North Carolina and the big comeback against NC State. But I played under. I know it's ticked down a bunch now. I had played under 150.5. I just think this Miami team is gelling at the right time. Obviously, it took a little while to get Lucas's defensive strategy going with these guys. But if you look, they only have 5 losses, and a couple of them, one of them's to Florida. Another one is to I don't have the schedule right in front of me right now, but they're 3 of their losses are nothing to sneeze about. This Miami team is pretty good. Virginia Tech's pretty erratic on both ends of the ball. So Miami doesn't play a frantic pace. I like the under in this game. It's not my biggest bet. I played it under 150.5. I could still endorse it at 148.5. I just don't think Miami's going to want to get in a track meet after those 2 big wins. I think the coach is so good, defensive minded. What they were able to do to shut down North Carolina 2 games ago, very impressive. I really like this guy, and like I said, they're going to make the tournament. They have a good schedule the rest of the way, and I think they're going to be top 4 in the ACC bracket, which gives them an auto bye. I think this is just like a dark horse team to make a run to the Elite Eight. You're not going to want to play them. Very good defensive team, and defense to me is more important down the stretch in March than the offense, because good defense can shut down a good offense a lot of the time.
And you mentioned it early in the show. It's worth repeating. You told me yesterday that they don't play Duke and that you had to check it 3 times. I had to go check it, and you're right. But they get BC twice. Just weird with these super conferences. Certainly, unbalanced schedule to say the least. So that's interesting. Another game that's, I think, super intriguing in the Big Ten, Wisconsin off some big wins against Ohio State. Now, the Buckeyes had that game, neutral site in Nashville against Virginia. I loved the Cavaliers. They came back, stole that game. Thornton was great, but he needs help. And obviously the size of the Hoos was proved pivotal here. Now they're back home, back in conference play. Ohio State's been sneaky decent at times. I like whiskey, but I'm nervous here with the line move. Wisconsin was a favorite. Now it's pick 'em. Badgers, I know, are not as good as their best is as good as basically any team, right? They've won at Chrysler and they've won in Champaign, but I just don't think much of this Ohio State team. Again, outside of Thornton, they got not much. They played out of their minds in Nashville against Virginia. I like the Badgers, but I respect the line move.
Yeah, it's a weird stat here. I played it. I used it in an alternative line parlay again with Iowa State last night. So I have a +6.5 on Ohio State today. I also played it at +1.5 earlier. This Ohio State has a very interesting stat. They have 9 losses this year, but after each loss, they came back with a win. So dating all the way back to November 28th, their loss versus Pitt, they went win, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, win, loss. So tonight is time for a win. So
Right.
it's a little bit of a weird strategy. That's not the only reason I'm playing it. I just think there's going to be some regression coming for this Wisconsin team, who I mentioned before against Michigan State, just drained 15 threes against them. They just been hot. You know, they got 2 big wins over Sparty, over Illinois, and they should have beat Indiana when they got hosed by the officials on that ridiculous charge call. And the guy carried the ball, traveled, and then they called a block when it should have been a charge. The guy fell down. I thought that was ridiculous. Some of the calls that Indiana gets at home are just over the top. But I just think there's a little regression coming to this Wisconsin team. Like 2 weeks ago, everyone was saying Wisconsin was done. Now they're like the hottest team going. I just don't know. I'll tell you one thing. We had Ohio State last Wednesday against USC. You know, I had a -7.5. They didn't get there. Some questionable officiating in the game. A few people pointed out to me that the crowd was very weak for Ohio State. So I anticipate the crowd coming full bore tonight against a rival team that's on a bit of a roll. I like Ohio State as it's not really an upset, but I guess because Wisconsin's ranked now, it is. So give me Ohio State plus at a pick or +1, +1.5, whatever it's out there. I like Ohio State to get the job done.
We should mention it. It's close to being a Carver special. Not that he invented this, but he loves the unranked teams that are favored over ranked teams. And I should have given an acknowledgement to Iowa as well in that game over Nebraska, if the Hawkeyes do, in fact, end up favored in that game. So these are coin flip games. Really interesting. Obviously, Whiskey playing really well. You're right. They're the toast of the town. Let's get into some other intriguing games for other reasons. We'll go to the Big 12 for the first time in this show. K-State's been a disaster. Jerome Tang gets fired, and he's going to try to get his buyout. Baylor, not exactly the most reliable team, but they're road favorites here, 3.5 against the Wildcats in the Little Apple. It's tempting to take Baylor, but I just can't. I get it. I know new coach, all this, but K-State's so bad. What's your read on this game?
Oh, this is autoplay. Kansas State. I played it at +5. I played it at +4. I saw it went all the way down to 3. We're back at 3.5 now. Listen, Baylor has no business being favored, over many teams, let alone on the road. They only have 2 road wins all year, 4-8 in the Big 12. They're not exactly the Baylor team that cut down the nets 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure exactly why. You figure that school would have plenty of money. They have a good coach. They have good facilities. But Baylor basketball just hasn't been the same. And an interesting note, I'm also going to play the over in this game, over 159.5. The interim coach, who has not been named permanent yet, is Matt Driscoll. And he was at North Florida last year. And if you remember North Florida, they would regularly play games with 200 points scored. He would give up 100. They would get 100 some games. He likes to play fast. He was a number 10 team in tempo last year at North Florida. K-State's number 15 this year. So I expect this game to be an up and down, crazy pace. They led the league in most 3 points attempted and most percentage of points coming from the three last year at North Florida. So this game's going to be a wild, crazy game, and I think the kids are probably happy that they get a new voice into the locker room. And I think K-State actually pulls off the upset tonight, gets the job done outright. But we'll take the points, and we'll go over 159.5.
Love the angle on the total. Perhaps a best bet. We shall see. Where it's just around the corner in about 10, 15 minutes. So there's some send it in Jerome puns we can probably do. Send him out, Jerome, something like that. But we'll see if the new coach Driscoll changes things. And Baylor laying lumber on the road should be interesting in that one. Let's go to the SEC for the first time. This line has definitely been steamed with Texas road favorite against LSU. This Tigers team, football season can't get here soon enough in Baton Rouge. This number was about 9.5 overnight. It's now 11.5. Longhorns playing a lot better of late. So Sean Miller's got this team headed in the right direction. Perhaps a letdown spot with the Tigers in town. Thomas is out for the year officially for LSU. They recently got a shooter back. I mean, look, we have some people chiming in. Henry says Texas covers, LSU's falling, the wheels are falling off. I'd lay it or pass. I'm still tempted here. Bully ball, I'm tempted here.
I don't play many favorites, but this is one I'm playing. I'm playing Texas. I played it at 11. Since January 24th, their win against Georgia, Texas is 5-1 straight up, 5-1 against the spread. The only game they lost was at Auburn, a game they led by 8 at halftime. They kind of blew it late. They still got the cover. They did get a little lucky against Ole Miss when they ran off 14 straight points to end the game to get a crazy cover when the spread was 10.5, won by 11. A lot of people were on Ole Miss that day. But listen, Sean Miller's got this team humming. They're number 6 in offensive rating on KenPom. So another spurt ability team where they go in big bunches and get a lot of points. And like the commenter said, LSU seems to be the wheels are falling off the bus. They've lost 10 of the last 12. 7 of the 10 losses have been by double digits. They only have 2 road wins all year against BC and South Carolina, both in overtime. In the BC game, they trailed by 10 late. BC just gave the game away. So they're obviously not a good road team. I just feel like you said, Texas are past, but I'm going to play Texas. I don't, like I said, never really play double-digit favorites, but I just think they're on a good roll right now. They're playing good basketball. They take care of business against the lesser teams, and LSU is definitely one of the lesser teams.
Yeah, I would say, hey, we're down to 10.5 there in Austin, so that's a strike price for you. A couple other games that caught my eye. Let's go late night hoops. We'll keep it with a conference we've discussed in the Big 12. Texas Tech off the monster win going to Tempe to face Arizona State. This number's come down a little bit from 8.5. Now, Tech obviously has some impressive wins. That's the biggest win probably of the year in Tucson against the number 1 ranked team in the country. Although what Kansas did without Peterson was also impressive against Arizona. But man, it's a bold move to take ASU in the points here, just given what Bobby Hurley and this team have done. But how do you back Tech here off the monster win?
Yeah, last night, as soon as the line came out, I texted a few people. I think I texted you that it would be an auto play. I wanted to wait for more than 8. I got 8.5. So I'm on the Sun Devils. I mean, you have to play it. You have to play it. You beat the number 1 team in the country in their backyard down in Tucson at the McKale Center, one of the toughest places to play. And your reward is 3 days in Paradise Valley, Tempe, Scottsdale, perfect weather. Everyone telling you the greatest. I'm sure there's some guys on that team making some big money from the Texas Tech boosters. I'm sure they're having a pretty good time right now in Scottsdale. So I think Bobby Hurley's team off a full week. They haven't played since their win against Okie State a week ago. So I think they'll be ready to go. I mean, they've had some good efforts this year. Obviously, they're not a good team. They're not a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but they haven't got blown out since they played Houston back in January. They've had some games where they lost by like 10 or 12, some close games. I think they'll be able to hang tight. This is one game I'm definitely going to be looking to in play. I have Arizona State plus 8.5. If they get out to a big lead, I wouldn't be opposed to taking some Texas Tech because I think Texas Tech eventually gets the job done. because I've seen Arizona fade a couple times this year versus Arizona in a similar situation. So you're going to be keeping an eye on these games. If Arizona State catches Texas Tech napping, a little hungover from the big win, I could see you get a nice little live price on Texas Tech, and we'll see if we can catch a little bit of a middle.
All right, so that number's down to 6.5 as we speak. It's a late tip. I'll say this: I wouldn't be shocked if the Sun Devils win. They're best, which is very rare. They have athletes; they can play, and they can shoot and score. Can I interest you in ASU first half plus 3.5 or plus 4.5, depending on your preference for juice?
Yeah, see, I wish I had played it earlier, but that's why I waited for 8.5, and a lot of the times, you can't get the access to the first half right away, especially definitely can't get it overnight. So you're just at the mercy of when the book gives you the opportunity to play it. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it if you can't get the 8.5 or 7.5 now. It's probably a good angle. I really like the 8.5 because if they do get out early, like I mentioned, I'm going to in-game bet Texas Tech. Hopefully, maybe Arizona State takes a lead to halftime, and you can get Texas Tech just to win the game at a short number. So yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
It could be just like ASU, like you said, a week off, really gearing up for this, and the other guys have been just hanging out in Arizona and things like that. All right, let's keep it late. We got the big marquee game in just a sec, but let's talk Minnesota at Oregon. So the Gophers are like 1-9 in their last 10 or something ridiculous. The lone win against Sparty of all teams, but they're a much better team at home at the barn. Now they're in Oregon. Now I know you backed the Ducks laying 6.5 against Penn State at home. Biddle's back, as you alluded to earlier. Still no Shellstad. I don't think he's going to come back at all. He and Dana Altman not exactly getting along, but I like the Ducks here. I think this is a team that when you get over the hump and get that win, and you kind of have that with Biddle returning, you kind of have that second wind in the season where you can kind of have a little bounce in your step. I thought they played pretty well. They shot the ball well. I like Minnesota's coach, but this is a team that's really different away from home. It's a tough road trip. It's late. They've been out there. They lost by 11 at Washington. I think we're going to see an 8-point loss here as well.
Yeah, it was shocking to see that. You mentioned last night that it opened at 1.5 and shot up to
Yeah.
4. I mean, with Biddle, they're a totally different team. I mean, they're just, they're capable of, playing well against anyone. Look, they almost beat Purdue. Minnesota,
In Michigan,
like you said,
Michigan
yeah,
earlier.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. No, but the Purdue game was like
Right, on the road, yeah.
yeah, on the road. Biddle's first game back came a little injection. What I liked about the Oregon effort on Saturday was they're up 6 at halftime. Penn State came right down and cut it to 2, but they gathered themselves and they pulled away. They were up 10, up 12, and never let it slip away. So it was a good win, good cover on Saturday. I don't have a play on this game. It would definitely be Oregon or pass. Maybe you play him in a little money line parlay because the coach for Minnesota, he is pretty solid. They just don't have many players, and like you said, if they don't have that home court advantage, they're not exactly a road warrior type of team.
Nico Medved, really, really strong hire, I think, for the Gophers. I agree with you there. Look, it's 2-12 against like 2-11 or something in conference play, but all tickets cash the same. I'm on the Ducks in this game. Now the big game. We've all been. What's that?
You've bet more Oregon games this year than anyone I know. I'll tell you that.
I wish I knew what I was doing with the Ducks, but I do think we're going to get it right with this game. But nobody's betting more Air Force games than I am. MT Smith in the chat. Come on, Doug. We know Air Force is on the card. This line is trickled up to 28.5. So the market's finally realizing what this Air Force team is. Winless in conference play. I believe they're 1-9 ATS in their last 10. And what I like about betting against them is when they cover, it's usually by 0.5 or 1.5 points. Like they're not, all of a sudden, tied at half and these games are supposed to get blown out. They just don't have the horses in this NIL era. But when they don't cover, it's a rocking chair win. So we got some comments here. The Air Force New Mexico line can't be high enough. I know we got you laying double digits with Texas, Chris. I'm laying it with the Lobos at the pit. Any value on New Mexico minus 20,000 money line here? What are these odds? Are you tempted at all? Are you just too late to the Air Force party here?
No, and this game is at New Mexico, correct? I'm not.
Yes. Yeah.
The
It's at the
problem
Penn.
I have with Air Force is they're I don't even call it a stadium. Their arena is the most miserable to watch a basketball game in. It's like the camera the camera angle is like 2 stories too high. It's like a dreary low definition blue hue to the film, and it's just and there's no one at the game. There's no one there. So I just I steer clear of Air Force. I know you've been doing well on them. Although I do recall within the last 10 days that New Mexico laid a massive egg too. So and I believe that was at home against Utah State. So New Mexico is not exactly
Yes.
a sure thing. I'm sure New Mexico will probably get out to a quick start, but who knows? Maybe play a first half. I'm sure it's probably like 17 or something crazy, because a lot of times they feel bad for this the service academy players. They're obviously not going to be Air Force having a basketball team is kind of crazy as it is. You got to be a certain height to be a pilot. How are they going to recruit basketball players? Just stick to the running the wishbone. And I don't get it. So maybe first half. I'm not going to play the game.
Well, it's funny you mentioned this because their coach got fired earlier this year and there were some reports that he was bullying them and stuff like that. So the new coach actually ditched their version of the wishbone, right? So they're running the Princeton offense and things like that slow the game. He's now running like a normal offense, which I think is just a death wish because they don't have the horses, A, to do that, and B, it just speeds up, it raises the level of the volume of or number of possessions. So it's actually worse. Now, the Tuesday before Super Bowl, I remember I was tracking this game. They lost. They were down at half, 48-18 against Grand Canyon, and somehow outscored Grand Canyon in the second half. So that was their lone cover in the last 10. Air Force basically they used to be okay to bet on because they got a bunch of points. They ran that half court offense and things like that. But with NIL, some of the real decent players they were getting are now getting like money from the MAC or something like that. So they're not even getting those. Now they have like fringe D1 players. And that's why they've been such a punching bag the last 3 years. And they've been so horrible ATS is they're not really a D1 team. I mean, all things considered, you mentioned the height limits and things like that. They're a fade for the rest of the year. And teams, do take it easy on them, but the bench players want to get in and get there. So I think the coaching change actually makes it more of a bet against them. But 28.5 is obviously a monster number.
Yeah, I'm just gonna I'll root you in. I'll
Right.
text you.
So
I'll text
first
you in the
half.
second
Okay.
half.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Another late night game, and this is a really interesting revenge spot, also in the Mountain West. San Diego State hosting the aforementioned Grand Canyon Lopes. Grand Canyon's been a little disappointing. I believe they've lost 3 of 4. Now, these two teams played earlier in Arizona. Grand Canyon stole a game. Aztecs had it. Depending on which fan base you are, they stole it, right? It was the officiating. Now there's a tax here for the revenge angle. I'm surprised this number hasn't come down overnight. You and I were texting last night. This has defense, at least for the Aztecs, and I know Grand Canyon plays good D. This has underwritten all over it.
Yeah, the Mountain West isn't known for defense, but the two teams that actually do play defense are playing together tonight. So you get San Diego State 14th in the country in Ken Palm, GCU 30th. So you figure it should be a defensive type of battle. And the reason the game went over the first time they met, and like you said, they stole the game late, is that GCU, they shot at 48% from three. That's not their forte at all. They only shoot 30%, 30.1% for the year, which is 336 in the country. So I don't expect anywhere close to that output, especially, coming down to San Diego to play the game. I feel like this should be a defensive battle. I feel like, you do have the revenge angle. So, I wouldn't want to lay 8.5 points. First off, it's tough to lay 8.5 points with San Diego State. I mean, they have some real clunker games. They run that motion offense where it looks ugly. They don't shoot a lot of threes either. They lead. They're one of the top teams in shooting actual old type of 2-point shots. Their average 2-point shot, I saw some stat today, is like 7.2 feet from the basket, which is which is crazy. It's one of the the highest rates in the country. So they shoot a lot of like elbow jumpers and baseline jumpers, and they're not getting exactly to the rim. They don't shoot a lot of threes. It should be a recipe for an under. I'm surprised it's, I saw it come from 140, 139, I saw 138 and a half, and now we're back up to 139 and a half. I just feel like it's an under type of game. Two good defenses, the revenge angle for San Diego State to put up a really good effort. I'm on under 139 in the game. I know it's up another half a point, but I'm still sticking with the under 139.
All right, and we have some funny chats. I just want to mention MT Smith saying Kareem was a pilot. That's true. In airplane he was. So that is a good mention. By the way, I saw a prop you can bet at Bet Rivers. If you're feeling Air Force is going to really give them a shot, you can get 70-1 that the game goes to overtime. Really tempting there. So in case you want to take the 28.5 point dog, you can get 70-1 on the game going to overtime. I think that's going to do it for this card on the men's side. Just real quick, there's a ranked versus ranked matchup on ESPNU and women's hoops. Great backdoor cover, by the way, by Arkansas. Down 12, stole the ball when there was a dribble out situation with 12 seconds to go, and then they hit a three in transition. So nice little backdoor cover there. Didn't get there on the money line, of course. So Arkansas falls to 0-12 in conference play. Tennessee shorthanded, missing their point guard and another guard off the bench. It's pretty valuable for their offense, the way they're structured. I'm told that Ole Miss could be a good play here. So it's Ole Miss or pass, according to my people. But obviously the market a lot tighter now in February than it was earlier in the season. Just a reminder, if you bet with Bet Rivers in New York or New Jersey, you can take advantage of a Champions League bonus bet from Betting Weekly. Enter the bonus code BW216 for a $10 bonus bet to use on Champions League knockout round matches. That code again is BW216, and it's available to Bet Rivers bettors in New York and New Jersey. Offer ends on February 25th. Must be 21. Eligible players only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Real quick, some hockey for the Winter Olympics. If we, before we get to the best bets, Chris, I know you put together some parlays, things like that. Any interest in? We have Sweden playing Latvia right now. Sweden's up 3-1. The winner of this game gets the Americans, and then the women are on to the championship game. Canada was close. That game was close that we were discussing yesterday, but they will in fact play the women's side playing the U.S. Americans are about -$5. I want to say on the money line, 525 at last check on the women's side. Any parlay piece for you there? Because obviously the Americans they have 5 straight shutouts. They've been absolutely lights out.
Oh wow, it's that high, -500. Huh? That's crazy. Yeah, I don't have anything on that. I tried to pull off a parlay last week with 3 money lines to the U.S. women. At the time, they were -300. And okay. I can't remember what leg went. Oh, it was that's when Penn State knocked off Washington on last Wednesday night. So that was the leg. I had the 2 legs in, and I figured, that's going to be an easy winner. Washington's going to beat Penn State. They're only -900 on the money line. That was a non-needed leg. Let's just say I did not need that leg into the parlay.
Now it's 435. So I misspoke. The market's come down a little bit here.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone I've talked to about this U.S. women's Olympic team they're just a freight train. Canada hasn't posed any attempt to slow them down at all. And the last few times they've played, it's been pretty bad. They've been winning by margin. So I'd be shocked if the United States lost. Maybe you lay a goal and a half or 2.5 because they've been winning these games by margin. Like I said, there's been 7-2 and 6-2, and I expect them to win. I'd be shocked if they lost.
Okay, awesome. I'm with you there, but probably not a ton. I mentioned it last time they played Canada. Typically, this goes back to the when USA with Kobe played Pau Gasol in the Spain game. When they play each other in group play, the underdog kind of like plays possum a little bit because they're like, whatever. Let's say we pull off this huge upset. What do we get? Nothing. We just we're going to face the Americans again. So they get blown out, which Canada did. Much bigger effort here in the gold medal game. Nonetheless, I'm not going to grab the +320 either. It's only 1.5 on the spread. If you're feeling frisky, $1.48 juice, but still, I think could be a better way to play it. Best bets just a sec, but I want to remind everyone that released earlier today, Betting Weekly Game Bet Match joined Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert as they share their best bets for round of 16 matches at both ATP Delray Beach and ATP Doha. So some good tennis action on the Bet Rivers and Betting Weekly networks. So go check that out. And we reached that point in the show, Chris. I'm not going to lay the big lumber with New Mexico. But I am going to keep it in the Mountain West. We mentioned the San Diego State revenge factor. I can't lay those points. I always get a little uneasy with the Aztecs. A couple of weeks ago, I played. It was San Diego State off a loss. I played Wyoming team total under, and it got there by a half because the Aztecs took their foot off the gas in the second half. So maybe I'm overreacting to there, but I do think the intensity is going to be high off the tip for the Aztecs. So I'm going to go Grand Canyon first half total. So a team total here, because I don't want to lay the first half number. I just don't trust the San Diego State offense. So I'm going to go Grand Canyon team total under 30.5 as my best bet. You mentioned the shooting. I think the Aztecs defense is just going to be in their grill. And I just don't want to, the game total is 64.5. So I don't think it should be higher, right? For the, fouls and potentially garbage time. So I think there's line value at 30.5, just given the intensity and the narrative of the revenge angle. So I like Grand Canyon first half team total under 30.5 here in San Diego. What about you? We've talked about a lot of games. What's jumping out to you?
Well, if I could have gotten 8.5 with Arizona State, which I did myself, I would make that my best bet. But at 6.5, we'll pivot to.
You can do an alt line. Hold on, you can do the slider. It's going to be juicy.
Not going to give out an alt. No, we're gonna go with the new coach angle. Baylor as a road favorite does not deserve to be favored at all. And you get that new coach bounce, and we're going to take Kansas State plus the 3.5. I think they win the game outright. You got to figure the Baylor team is thinking, hey, they're not having a good year. And they're like, oh, we're going into this team, and they stink, and they got killed the last couple of games, and the coach is fired. The kids are talking. And I bet you Kansas State, I bet you they kind of man up tonight, and they're going to be playing a free, wild style with the new coach that was at North Florida. So I like Kansas State plus the 3.5. Like I said, I have it at +4 and +5, but I like it at plus 3.5 too, because I think they're going to win the game outright. So that would be my best bet. Kansas State.
I thought you might go over there. I mentioned it earlier. I said possibly, but you're going to go the home dog here, new coach. Look, they played well after the rant by Jerome Tang. They played well against Houston. Certainly covered that 21.5. They've alternated some wins and losses against the spread, but they got the old 1-11 against 3-9 in straight up. So that's a matchup for us. And then we got a late night team total first half under. That's the beauty of betting, right? We just pick off some lines that catch our eye on the big board. So that pays plus 251. So nice juicy payout if we can bring it home. So let's go to the Little Apple first, and then we'll hopefully bring it home out where you are, Chris, in San Diego. So that's going to do it for us. Carver's going to be back later in the week. Analytics Capper, Albert will be in tomorrow. Chris, obviously, you're sitting in obviously very capable hands. So I know our audience, judging from the chat, really, really appreciative with your insight, especially today. We just went through a rip of college hoops games.
Yeah, hopefully we pick some of the right sides. I do like a lot of games tonight. Every game that I said I liked, I'd already played it. I don't have the best numbers on all of them. I do have some good numbers on a few of them. So I'm looking forward tonight. Last night only getting 2 games that I'm interested in is not really my cup of tea. But tonight we'll have all the TVs going, and I'm excited for a profitable evening.
All right, good stuff. We went a little heavy today, but the college basketball card certainly warranted it. Thanks to Chris Macero. Again, Carver will be back later in the week. Tomorrow will be Albert in the hot seat, so we'll have a good show again. Same usual time tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. Good luck to everyone out there on your wagers.